You're literally Frodo right now.
He's the hero.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Gollum's Gamers, and welcome to the first episode of Talk of the Table, which is a new series where I'll be doing my best to pick the brains of some of the very best players and minds, in fact, in competitive MESBG, to answer what I'm hoping are, some of the burning questions that the community might have, which is why I'm joined today by David Farmer, who in his MESBG tenure has won over 20 MESBG tournaments. I'm right on that, Dave?
About that, yeah. It's about 20.
Roughly.
If you include all the different kinds of tournament, yeah.
Yeah, sure. Overall. And he currently holds the first place position in the 2025 GBHL rankings. He finished third overall in the 2024 season and second in both 2023 and 2022. Now, he's also part of Any Heroics, as the YouTube viewers can see from the background. Now, I guess we may as well start there. Dave, what's going on with the Any Heroics channel? I see people in the comments. Give us the the take here.
Well, people ask me this in person quite a lot. The answer is the podcast was quite a lot of effort for certain people, and those people decided they didn't want to do it anymore.
Sure. Okay.
It's basically just burnout is the short answer. People got to a weekly schedule is quite a lot for that kind of content. It's quite a lot of work.
It's hard. It is.
We decided to take a hiatus, although we will be coming back. I mean, I will definitely be coming back with similar kind of content,
Nice.
Competitive inspired content, mainly me talking. So if you don't like that, don't bother checking it out.
Hey.
About tournaments I've been to this year.
Nice.
I realise this is quite late in the year to start doing this, but
better late than never.
Aiming to try and do it at least monthly.
Nice.
To break down tournaments I've gone to.
Sure.
What
that
we
you've
think
been to.
Do an autopsy on what I think went wrong or why I kicked ass.
Nice.
Basically.
Nice. That will be the cool. Well, I will leave a link to Any Heroics in the description to hopefully see that new content come in very soon. It is hard to keep up, especially we aim to upload sort of every 10 days or so, but trying to do something even to that sort of schedule with other people, consistently, it is hard to keep up.
Our main guy making all of our not spreadsheets, although it was a spreadsheet involved, actually slides, is a doctor, and he just burned out hard and was like, I'm not doing it anymore. And it's like, well, I guess it's not happening anymore because we're not doing it.
No, I think he spoke about that on the stream actually for any of the viewers that saw the tournament live streams I was doing last year, which leads me into tonight. I have a brand new setup. I've got my stream microphone out finally, so there'll be some nicer audio quality hopefully moving forward, but it's a little bit of a new setup I've got going on here, but hopefully, because we've had people complain about the laptop microphones and such. So hopefully those people are happy with the changes. There we go.
It should help.
As always, you can find us on Instagram and Spotify by following the links in the description down below. And if you do enjoy all of the MESBG content that we make, then please do remember to subscribe to us here on YouTube. So before we dive into all of the SBG stuff, is there anything that maybe comes to mind that you do outside of the game? I want to kick things off on a lighter note, that you enjoy doing that people listening might not know about you and all that sort of thing. Yeah,
so I've had a lot more time to dedicate to MESBG these last couple of years because I play sport. I play ultimate frisbee is my primary sport, but I had a very long injury layoff. It's been. I got my first serious injury at the tail end of 2022, and I'm not better yet. So it's been a long time. That's been rough. But other than that, so sport would be one if I was actually able to. And music. I listen to music a lot, and I play music, sing. I'm a big fan of playing the piano. I play the banjo. Very into folk music.
Nice.
I'm not terribly good at playing either of those instruments, but I'm
I think you
more
very
confident,
briefly
maybe.
strummed a tune on the banjo in an intro clip on a previous podcast you were on,
Yeah, I
Cole.
did. I did. I don't remember
Love
which
to see
one.
it.
It's been a while.
It was a while ago.
I
It might
used
have
to
been
have
The Race.
my banjo is not to hand in my current office
That's a
like it
shame.
used to be. It used to be within my arm's reach
Nice.
where I used
At
to
all
live.
times.
So yeah,
Nice.
wah,
Okay.
wah.
Well, there you go. A little insight there to David Farmer behind the scenes.
Mhm.
But I guess then moving on to sort of SPG. So I guess we should probably start sort of at the beginning, right? So sort of take us back.
Mm.
When did you kind of first get into SPG? How long have you been playing for? All that sort of stuff.
Well, it's a bit unusual because I think most people got into it when the movies were coming out.
Yep.
But I didn't actually see the movies until I was 18 or
Oh,
17.
okay.
I didn't see them until
Sure.
I was in college, just by chance,
Yep.
which is unusual. Neither of my parents is particularly into cinema or stuff like that,
Right.
so it didn't really,
Okay.
where we never really got the opportunity,
Didn't
and I was
happen.
too young.
Yep.
I was like a little bit too young to just go see them by myself when they came out.
Yeah.
Like I would have needed to be brought by my parents.
Yeah.
Um, and so I kind of played a tiny bit in like 2012. I
Mm.
enough to get a box of plastic Rivendell elves and like 3 blisters of
Nice.
I guess they were Finecast at the time, Spearmen. I guess they're still
Yep.
Finecast now, but they
So
although
were
they're
they
back in
Finecast
metal.
even in 2012? Back
Well,
then?
20 so there was a huge push to turn everything Finecast
Yeah.
around like 2010, and then they sort
Oh,
of
right.
backtracked it because Finecast was really unpopular and all that, and
Yeah.
like
See, I thought
basically
that
they wanted
was
to turn everything that had been metal into
yeah
Finecast.
into Finecast. I thought that was
Yeah,
more of a recent sort of thing because I remember
other way
when I
around.
was a kid and I got into it, I had the metal spearmen, and then when I
Yeah,
got back into the hobby in like lockdown sort of thing, they were all Finecast. So I assumed that was a fairly
yeah.
recent,
Well,
but even as far back
they
as
were walking
2010.
it back. It was kind of a tangential thing because they wanted a material that wasn't metal because at the time metal was more
Mm.
expensive, and they wanted something
Yeah.
that would work in the metal
Yeah.
molds,
Molds. Yeah. Yeah.
so they didn't have to fully retool them
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yep.
for plastic or whatever. But then they ended up walking it back because of changing all kinds of things. Like basically, people didn't
Mm.
like it, and also it ended up
No.
being way more expensive than it was ever intended
Yeah.
to be.
Sure.
But
Right.
basically, there was a period where a lot of metal models turned Finecast. There were a few things that only ever existed in Finecast. So, for
Yeah. Yeah.
example,
Yeah.
the Wog Marauder, Groblog, Ashrak, they were never in metal.
Sure.
And then there was like the first releases of The Hobbit, they're like Thror and Thrain, for
Oh
example, were
yeah. Yeah. Of
only ever in
course. That were only
Finecast.
ever. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there was like a few things that were going to be plastic, but then because the Hobbit sales were really bad, they pulled the plug
Yeah.
and turned them into
Yeah.
Finecast instead. So, for
Yep.
example, the both kinds of Lake Town, the Mirkwood
Mm.
Elves were originally
Yeah.
going to, and the Gundabad were all originally going to be plastic, like all of the
All
stuff
right.
that was in the
God, they
Unexpected
are
Journey.
such terrible models. Imagine if they'd been plastic. That'd be
Well,
great.
they would have worked better. I'm interested that Palace Guard ended up plastic, but the
Yeah, it's
Mirkwood
odd.
Elves got pulled into. I think it was because they came out later. Palace Guard
Sure.
would have been done earlier. Anyway, it's not
Yeah,
really
yeah.
relevant to this. But basically, I got into the. I played a couple of games because I played Warhammer
Yep.
Fantasy, but back
Yes.
in like 2010, I got into it. Ali, one
Yeah.
of your Gollum's gamers,
Yep. Yep.
he's like
Ali,
a
shout
childhood
out.
friend of mine.
Yep.
And I got into tabletop wargaming with him.
Yep. Did you
He'd
guys
been
go to
playing
school
since he was a
together?
kid. We did, yeah. Although we
You
weren't
went.
really friends until after school, to be honest. We were like in the
Sure.
same circle, but we weren't like good mates until later.
Were you in the same year as well?
Yeah, we were. Yeah,
Like same school, same
we
year. Cool.
are. I
Sure.
suppose he's a bit
Yeah.
older than me, but not by much.
Yeah.
Basically, so I played a tiny bit, but didn't really get into it. I owned like a Legolas Elrond. I got the Elrond Gilgalad. I got the banner and captain, and then I had like
Yep.
12 spearmen, 12 swordsmen, something like that. I had
Sure.
like basically nothing. And then Ali, I don't have any. Well, most people will know Warhammer Fantasy got fired out of a cannon and turned into AOS because it wasn't very
Yes.
profitable in sort of 2015 time, maybe
Yep.
2014. I don't remember exactly when it happened, but I completely lost interest because AOS was not a game I was interested in. Initial release of
Yep.
AOS was extremely scuffed, and they really put off anyone who was interested in playing competitively because they basically said,
Right.
just put the same number of models on the table as your opponent. And anyone who's interested in playing competitive was like, what the fuck?
When. Yeah.
No,
What is this? Yeah. Yeah.
no, I
Yeah.
won't do that. I'm going to
That is
play a
thick.
game that actually cares about competition.
It is
And then they
balanced.
obviously
Yeah.
walked it back later, realizing that a competitive scene
Mm.
is basically crucial for any game to exist
Yeah.
in the cultural zeitgeist. But anyway, that
Mm.
was enough to put me off fantasy.
Yeah.
and just the games in general, tabletop gaming. And Ali kept harassing me, being like, "You should come to you should come to SBG tournaments. There's this thing called the GBHL. You go all over the country." Basically, he wanted someone to drive him to tournaments because he didn't drive at the time. He hadn't passed his
Yes,
test
Ali.
and didn't have a car. So in the summer, he was like, "Well, I can get there from the train when I'm at uni, but I want someone to drive me to tournaments." And I was like, "Well," I eventually let him convince me. So it was almost 10 years ago. A tournament called Longbottom Carnival in the summer of 2015, which is actually, interestingly, David Clubley's first tournament as well, just purely
Really?
by coincidence. We
There you
didn't
go.
know each other or meet each other, but it
No,
just
of
happened
course
to
not.
also be his
Yeah.
first tournament as well. And yeah, it was 700 points. I bought a box of Rivendell Knights
Oh yeah.
because at the time, it's a Rivendell Knight captain and 5 knights was
Mm.
exactly 200 points. So I just need to fluff up my shitty
Yeah.
Rivendell force a little bit. I had Arwen, a knight captain,
Nice.
and like a regular captain,
Yeah.
which is not very good. But I mean, it was my first ever tournament,
Went
so
for it. Sure.
didn't go very well. I didn't really enjoy it that much either. I distinctly remember being like, "Well, that was a bit crap," and then for some reason just decided to keep going. So I bought a bunch of Mordor stuff. Just
Yeah.
a big. I think what happened was I got like a tax break or something. I got like
Right.
a tax refund of like 250 quid or like a check, and I was like,
Yes.
"Ooh."
Let's go
And
get
then I
some
was like,
balls.
maybe I bought like 3 boxes of Morannons. I bought some wraiths. I think I bought the Shadow Lord. I think Ali was like, "Buy the Shadow Lord. He's good." I was like, "Okay." Bought the Shadow Lord, bought
Nice.
a Troll Chieftain, and then worked
Yeah.
with that. Um,
It's the only logical thing to do with a tax rebate, really, isn't it?
yeah, well, I mean, it
GWF
was just
suck.
like I was literally just I was a student, but then I just rather than spending it on beer, I was just like, well,
Fair
I'd like
enough.
to have
Yeah.
another army just to give it another go because I was like, I can see the appeal. I didn't have a good time at the tournament
Mm.
particularly, although that was
But there's
partly because I
something
didn't do
there.
very well, and
Yeah.
I like winning a lot.
As we will
Um,
come on to.
well, I was always competitive. Like, I was always really competitive at Warhammer Fantasy, and I was disgusted by the lack of competitiveness in AOS on release.
I thought
So
you were
I
about to
was
say in MESBG.
no, no. I mean, MESBG was a lot less competitive back then. Like,
Yeah.
uh, every tournament, if you were a top level competitor and you had a strong army, there was about 3 games every tournament that were completely free.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah.
that's
Right.
not true anymore.
Sure.
That's very far from
Yeah.
true now. But anyway,
Yeah.
so that was
For
when I
sure.
got into it. I basically just started from scratch because I heard the game was nice and balanced.
Yeah.
Um, and I didn't really like the fact that it was Lord of the Rings branded, even though I loved the movies, because I was like, well, I want to play competitive. I don't want to play themey, even though I like the
Mm.
theme. So it was like a weird, like 2 different things. Like
Sure.
I wasn't that bothered by the theme. If anything, the fact that there was a theme angle to it was kind of off-putting to me because I was like, well, I don't want to. Basically, I didn't want to feel judged for being non-themey, which I knew I would be
You're
because I was
building the
going.
narrative here
Yeah.
even further that competitive players are not in for theme in any way
Well,
possible.
back then that was definitely true. It was basically impossible to build a competitive list that was themey in the good side in
Right.
particular, but in evil, like
Sure.
the kind of alliances you'd see back then were, well, they were powerful,
See,
very,
where
very
now
powerful.
the only competitive lists that you can build are themey ones because they've based every single list around a thematic point. So they've
Well, I
gone,
mean, if this had
there you
been how
go.
the game was back then, I wouldn't have had the problem. Although I don't know if I'd have got so into it, but we'll see.
Maybe
I
not.
liked the list building aspect of it back then.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so
Was fun.
long story short, I've been playing almost 10 years,
Almost 10 years. There we
essentially.
go.
Yeah.
When would you say you started to take competing sort of more seriously? Was there a point in time that you really started to see like improvement? Did those two things happen quite close together, would you say? What do you
Well,
think?
I always probably erroneously, I always saw myself as a top player, which I don't think was
Yeah.
true initially. Like I basically, after playing a few tournaments, I was like, I can be a really good player at this. I can do
Mm.
well, even though actually I didn't have any real reason to think that. That's just, I guess
I'll be
ego
good.
thinking in that regard. I won my first podium was a victory, 100 victory.
Mhm.
That was
Nice.
what
As you
2017.
do.
So like about 2 years after I'd started, I won my first tournament, and then I won. And the next tournament I played was January the following year. So that's quite a big difference
Right.
for me. That's a
Yeah.
6 month gap between tournaments. That's
That
not how I
doesn't
do things
happen.
these days. But like back then, I'd play about 4 a year. I wanted to do enough tournaments a year to get my scores in,
Sure.
basically. So
Yeah.
I think like most years I'd play like 300s and an 80 or something like that.
Right.
Um, and I didn't actually start competing properly until
Mhm.
our I technically slightly before COVID, but COVID massively derailed it. It was really after
Yeah.
COVID I started competing properly because I was actually able to do enough tournaments because I had a stable job and I had a car and I was able to get around
Yeah.
and commit to doing it. And also other things weren't available at the time. There was a period where SPG was one of the only hobbies I had access to that I could just do.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I'll give it a go. And then the time I identify it as me actually deciding, okay, I'm going to compete more was I won 2 tournaments in a row in the end of 2021. I won the Scouring of Cheshire when it was a GBH 100, and then I won Imps. Or it might have been the other way around. I might have done one then the other. Might have done Imps then Cheshire or vice versa. But I won 2 tournaments in a row, and I was like, okay, I can do this. I was like validating for myself of like I can compete, and then really like I hit the ground hard in 2023 and never really looked back. That was when I started having a lot of success. When I think that's when I sort of cemented my place as one of the top 3 in the country.
I mean,
regularly.
you did come second in 2022, though. So
but I didn't do very well already. In 2022. I consider a year where I got
you came second in the league.
I know, but I got 3 podiums. So this is how I see it. I got 3 podiums and got second in the league because basically no one else did very well that year. Like world champion.
So you got
won
3 podiums at 100s and came second.
I got a first, a second, and a third that year, and came second. That just ain't gonna happen.
By
now.
Today's standards, that is
that's pretty weak. So it felt weak to me at the time. I got a tournament win. I won Contest of Champions. I got second at G Boot, and I think I got third at I think it was Dewey's event. Right. I distinctly remember that being a very disappointing weekend because that weekend I lost my final game against Clubley and came third instead of winning, and I was disappointed by that. And then literally later that day was the day. It was the day that Liverpool they were on the chase for the quadruple. That was the final day of the Premier League that year, and Aston Villa 2-0 up, bottled a 2-0 lead against Man City, and fucked it for Liverpool. I mean, obviously, like whatever. It's not that was a ruined my day. I remember because I went straight from the tournament to a friend's house living in Bristol because I didn't live in Bristol at the time to watch the games, and just ruined my whole day.
Yeah, fine.
Anyway, that's not really relevant, but yeah. And then from then on, I kind of hit the gas. I was like, I want to win, but as soon as I decided I wanted to win the league, I don't think there's that many players who have been on the same level since then. There's like two players, I would say.
Yeah. So you think it's from sort of like maybe in 2022 you sort of not lucked into coming second, but it sort of just fell into your lap in a certain
I wasn't trying to come second in 2022.
You weren't trying to, but then from 2023 you were sort of like, right, I've just come second.
Yeah, I was like, I'll try and win now.
Yeah, sure.
But like, I considered the start of my era as being a good player was when I got the end of 2021, where I ended up coming 4th, but I got like, I didn't lose a game. I won 2 tournaments in a row, and then I got like, I finished top 10 with 2 draws, and then I lost my first game lost for like 4 tournaments was the final game of the finale that year, where if I'd won that, I'd have come second the previous year. I'd have come second in the 2020 to 2021 if I'd won that last game.
21. Yeah. Because I almost put in my little intro at the start that you came 4th in 2021, but it's not a podium, so I left it. But you were close, so you could have.
I don't bring it up. Yeah, I consider my 2020 to 2021 a stronger performance than my 2022.
Than 22.
Even though I finished way higher. Yeah.
So it was maybe that 2020 to 21 season, which was where you sort of.
Well, it was after
you had
COVID.
Back-to-back wins.
The little run after COVID, where I got third, first, and then another one I didn't podium, and then I got third. That was when I had I got like 4 podiums out of 5, and I felt like I was like hitting something new.
Nice. So, from there, sure. Okay. So I guess moving on from that then. So, what would you say? Obviously, having played the game for such a long sort of time at this point, what would you say are sort of your favorite types of models and armies to use? Which I guess leads quite nicely into sort of the play style sort of discussion as well. What how would you characterize your play style generally speaking?
I mean, I really like, I guess, control lists. So
tricks,
I guess I don't know how you define tricks.
Different sort of,
like I like Magic. I always used to really like Magic. Was like my sort of first love, I guess, in the game. The first thing I was like, it was when I realized I could see things that other people couldn't see, and that was having additional tools that allow you to do things differently,
make plays. Yeah.
Yeah, it's skill expression, I guess, is what you could call it.
Sure.
But like my first love was Saruman the White in terms of a model back then,
Okay.
pre 2018 edition. So 2 editions ago now, he
Yep.
was horse mounted Saruman the White was just chef's kiss, amazing, fantastic model.
I didn't even know he was in a Mordor list. Am I showing my
Not
youth
no, not
in?
Mordor, not Mordor. It
Oh,
was a
sorry. I thought
good
you said
side.
Mordor.
No, no,
Oh,
horse
oh,
mounted was what I said.
oh, sorry.
So
Sure.
he was 160 points, and he was absolutely incredible for his
160.
points.
Wow.
Cheap enough that you could ally him into almost anything without ruining your numbers. I mean, but then obviously I used to use hobbits and elves, and Saruman.
Right.
It was one of my favorite lists, and it was really, really strong back then.
That sounds fun as well. Hobbits and elves. Like it.
Yeah, anyone who thinks hobbits were fun to play against never had to play against them when they were
It's
actually
out.
good.
There you go.
Because they were
Yes,
4
I did not.
points with the strength
Yeah.
3, and you piercing strike was D3. So with a 5/5 elf support, it's like cool. You got strength 6 hobbits for 4
Yeah. Wow.
points,
Yeah.
and wood elves were 1 point
Not
cheaper
bad.
back then as well,
Mm.
or whatever. I think there were 7 points a model with spears back then. I think, or 8
Yeah.
maybe, probably 8.
It's
Yeah,
tasty.
so it was super cheap and efficient, and just really good stuff. But yeah, Magic, and then later on stuff like I like AOL was a big favorite of mine. Multiple Wraiths, just a fantastic army list, like double Wraith,
Triple Wraith, Spider
triple Wraith,
Queen.
Spider
Yeah.
Queen.
Yeah.
And in the current edition, my favorite army I've played so far has been Army of the White Hand, partly because it's really powerful, but partly because part of the reason it's powerful is it gives you these opportunities to control and basically it's one of the only armies that currently exists that I think would have been a top army in a previous edition, and that's telling.
Interesting.
Like
Interesting.
it would have been a strong army before this current edition.
Yeah, sure. We've been talking a lot about Army of the White Hand recently on like MESBG Monthly and things like that because it keeps on winning tournaments. So it's
some of that was my fault, to be fair.
Yeah, for sure. So say you're going to like a big tournament, like a really big event. How does the preparation look like in the days, weeks, even months, perhaps before look like? Do you have practice games? What does sort of the list building sort of process look like? All that sort of stuff.
I'm not a big fan of practice games, to be honest.
Okay.
I find I get bored of this game too easily if I play it too much, and I play it a lot.
Much.
Yeah,
you do.
So like I spend a lot of my time playing competitive tournaments. I do play a bit of practice games. I occasionally play Stephen or like Clubly. I'll occasionally give him a game, but like not as many as you might think. Certainly not as many as like Ash and Sam and James like to play.
Yeah.
Like I don't think there's anything wrong with practice games. I just think that I know myself and I get fed up of them quite easily.
Yeah, you're getting so many reps, I guess, at tournaments anyway.
And I don't get into the right headspace. I think they're more important if you don't go to a lot of tournaments. But because I do go to a lot of tournaments, I don't think there's as much of
value.
There's not as much value. And also I don't have any like Denby and Clubly are relatively close to me. It's still like a half-hour drive to get to either of them.
Yeah,
so it's like
it's not right there.
It's not fantastic. Like if someone lived around the corner from me, I'd probably play a little more. But yeah, in terms of list building, for me, I'll usually have a few lists that are like on my radar that I want to play, and it's going to be just determined by the points level at the moment. Like especially at the moment where like certain lists just aren't available at certain points level. So for example, like wanting to play, I don't know, just using example, Army of the White Hand, there's a points level, there's one like fairly narrow points bracket where it's extremely good, and any smaller than that, it's not really viable, I think. And any bigger than that, and you just lose out on you're not really adding a lot of power, you're just adding lads, which is fine, but like there's a real window, which for the record is about 600 to 750 approximately.
You get loads of lads and like
you get you get the right amount of tools. So like at 750, basically 600 you get Saruman, 2 warbands, Grimmer with some fast stuff. At 750 you get everything you want. So Saruman, couple of warbands, then you add in like the Oathmaker and so. Or you can have the Oathmaker in smaller, but that's just taste. How many models? You have 3 warbands, including the Oathmaker. You've got couple of Crebain, couple of Wargs. You've got everything you need. You've got really nice numbers. You've got plenty of shooting. Like that's the level where it's got everything. Any bigger than that at 800, if you ever build it, you'll see what the problem is. You can't get another hero in. So you've got your 4 heroes, you max out your warbands, you've got 5 with Grimmer, but he can't lead guys. And then you're like, well, you have to start thinking like, oh, I've got to take the horse and everything. Basically, especially now, because all the lists are very cookie cutter of how you build them. There's a very few lists that have serious variety to them. I know roughly just glancing at them what points levels they're good at. And some levels they're not so good at, but you could play them at, like for example, Men of the West, very good above about 850, or like at about 750 to 800. Also, you can play at 600, but that's much more limited. That kind of thing. Like you can do it, but it's not as good. Or like Minas Morgul, you might as well not bother above about 700. I mean, you can, but it's like you're not adding anything. It's the same problem. It's like the Witch King and a couple of captains. You hit that at about 650. So you've maxed it almost, and then it's like, what are you adding? Just more orcs, and more specters. It's like nothing wrong with it, but you've only got one big threat, and that's not going to change. Like you can't.
But as you scale up, the other lists that you'll be playing against will actually be adding.
Also getting a lot better. Yeah, for example, like at 700, you'd be facing shit like Triple Wind Lansdale, and the Witch King isn't going to love it. So like basically, I know what points levels are coming up. I have a short list of like armies in my head that I'm thinking about, and then I'm like, well, it's really at the moment it's just a choice between a couple of armies for any tournament, which in a way is nice because it means I know what I'm thinking of. But on the other hand, it's like it reduces a lot of the ifs and buts and maybes that you used to get, where you have to think about the meta and everything. And a lot of the time, the decision between those lists can just come if you have a quick glance at the rules pack. Have they added in custom scenarios? Are they just playing the regular ones? If they're just playing the regular ones, then it might just be a coin flip. If they're playing customs, that can swing it either way. If you say you've got two 800-point army lists, or it might be there's two 800-point tournaments coming up, I'll do one for this, and then the other one I'll do a different one. So you look at the rules pack, figure out if there's any reason why one is better than the other, and if there isn't, just whatever you feel like using more, or what other players are there and what you think they're going to bring, and if you can get an advantage. That's another thing, but that's more on the level of I'm trying to win the league, and you have to think about that sort of thing more.
Yeah, trying to counter what else you think is going to be there, sort of thing. As well.
Exactly.
Yeah. So obviously, you're going to all these tournaments, you're spending all this time, money, and everything, traveling up and down the country. But why? What would you say is your favorite part of going to tournaments? If you had to sum it up in one. What do you enjoy about it? Smashing your opponents? You're allowed to say it?
I'm a competitive person, and I think my favorite thing about this hobby that I like the most is competing. Like
competition.
It's like chasing a high almost, like getting like this is the truth for me and other things as well. Like it's not just about winning. It's not about winning at all costs. It's about chasing that feeling of
the journey sort of trying to get the win.
Like getting something over someone by outplaying them, or achieving something, or like using better tactics. I'm not about like, I don't mind obviously getting lucky to win, but if I achieve it over the course of like outthinking my opponent, that's the thing I crave, which is one of the reasons why I like those lists that allow you to do that.
To make the plays,
give you something that you can do to control things and make it your win rather than like an opponent's loss, if that makes sense. Like it's pretty satisfying when your random one scrub clutches up, wins, and does a wound on their big boy leader, and you win off of that. Like what I mean, like that's amazing, but it's not what I do it for.
No,
that's a fun story. The feeling I'm craving is the feeling of outplaying my opponent. And also like it's a community. Like one thing I've discovered over playing it for this long is like when you travel about, you get to have friends in places I never would have had friends. Like I've got a lot of friends in Scotland who I don't see ever apart from at these tournaments. And I do consider them friends because they're people I talk to a lot. And this is our core thing in common, but it's not like this is the only thing we ever talk about,
Of course. Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing, people from all over who you've become genuine friends with. I think it's a nice thing.
Yeah.
And also the whole traveling circus is less of a thing at the moment than it used to be. Not too long ago, but Well, I mean, like in 2023, like every tournament had like 20 of the same people at it, pretty much.
Yeah,
That's not true at the moment, but
that's
I
when I
don't
was
mind that.
going to 24 tournaments in a year.
Yeah,
The days are gone. I haven't even been to a tournament yet, but no, I think anyone that goes to sort of tournaments and things, yeah, will sort of agree. Kind of, it's seeing the same sorts of people and things, and
yeah.
building those relationships within the community is obviously a really, really great
It's
part
pretty.
of attending
It's pretty
tournaments
nice to have a shared passion with people.
for sure. Yeah, but it's the competing sort of side of it as well, which
Yeah,
is obviously
that's the
just something
reason I
that you
do it. I
really
wouldn't do it this
enjoy.
much if I wasn't in with a chance of winning every tournament I went to. I would not travel to
Mm.
tournaments nearly as much as I do.
As much, yeah.
Yeah, I do
You're
it a
just like a
bit, but
casual.
like going to 20 in a year, for example, is an insane thing to do
Not
if you're
going
not
to
trying to
happen.
win, in my opinion.
Traveling overseas, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm going to be doing that as well. So,
Yeah, there you go. Do you have anything that would sort of stick out as a most memorable moment from a tournament? An in-game moment? Something like that that's happened?
I mean, that's tough because again, I've done so many
Mm,
recently. In particular, like in the last few years,
yeah.
I've done dozens of tournaments. You know, um,
Was there
but
anything that happened that you were like, "Wow, this is insane. This will never happen again"?
I you'd think that kind of thing would stick out to me, but it really doesn't.
It
Like
doesn't.
genuinely, it doesn't stick out at all. I
So like,
don't
I have
have.
one for example. I've one for example. It was the very last roll of the dice in Game 6 of a 2-day tournament, and I rolled 2 dice with Grimbold, needing 4 wounds to kill a Mummock, and I double six it with the Mighty Blow, kill the Mummock,
Very
and I
cheeky.
podiumed the tournament because the Mummock died and enough dudes falling off of the Mummock hit the floor and died and broke him, or no, quartered him, I think. So yeah, I won the game because of that. So that was something, I went insane when it happened. That's something that will never happen again. I don't think, as long as I'm playing SPG. So to me, that
Well,
sticks out.
Grimbold won't do it
You know,
anymore. That's for damn sure.
true.
Rest in peace,
Yes,
comrade.
he has been retired for sure. Yeah,
um. It's that. Like it is so hard to pick something because like
there's
I'm
yeah,
definitely going to think of something better after. I think the things that stick out to me as the things that bother me the most are like the moments where
right.
I can remember making a huge mistake, and those really
We will come
those
on.
stick
We will
with
come
me.
on to that in a little while.
Yeah,
Yeah. If he thinks of something as a memorable moment, I'm sure he'll be down in the comments as he often is on some of our videos. He'll leave it down there. So
indeed.
moving on, I guess. Do you have any sort of like pre-game or in-game sort of like superstitions, rituals, anything like that? Mine, for example, just to set the table. So I have something where I will only roll the Games Workshop dice associated with the faction that I'm playing. So if I'm playing Rivendell, I will only use the blue Rivendell dice or a blue dice of a similar sort of color that isn't
Mm.
Games Workshop. If I'm playing Dale, I will only use the Dale dice because I feel if I don't, the dice may betray me because I'm not using the ones for the factions. Right? That's you know
I
call it
think
what you will.
I kind of yeah. I mean, I think and even non-superstitious gamers end up being superstitious.
Yeah,
Um,
eventually if you play
Yeah,
enough.
you can't help it. Like, I'm not a superstitious person at all, but I will retire some dice from gameplay if they're pissing me
Right?
off.
Sure.
If I feel like I've rolled bad, because the thing is, what I do is I before a tournament, and this is I guess this is coming as a pre-game ritual. At the moment, this is one of
Sure.
my main things. I'll get
Okay.
like 4 dice of lots of different colors that will
Mm.
be like my dice for this tournament. So like I
Yep.
have a big box of dice I've collected from all over, like so many of us do, and I'll
Yep.
get like 4 red ones, 4 green ones, 4 blue ones, 4 white ones, and then those are my
Mm.
4 yellow ones, and those will be my dice for the next few games. And if like I'm
Yep.
rolling just the white ones, like if I'm rolling 2 dice for a courage test, for example, I'll be rolling the two of the white ones, but I won't roll a
Sure.
pink and a white one because that's just insane.
Sure. Okay.
Two of the
Right.
same
Right.
color. And then
There we go.
if I fail like 5 color courage tests in a row, I'm like, all right, these white
You'll
dice
bin
are
them
going back
off.
in the box. Fuck them,
Gotcha.
get rid of
Okay.
them. I'm going to pick up the yellow ones, and it's
Moving
their
on to the
turn.
next pair, sort of
And
thing.
then if it
Yeah.
goes really
Okay.
badly, if I feel like my dice are going atrociously, I might even dig back into the bag for some like completely
Sure.
new dice, some of my
Switch it up.
GW dice or my farmer dice or something,
Yep.
bring out some
The
big
farmed
guns, as it
dice.
were.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Yep.
So I'm not even like I'm not superstitious in any other way, but something about rolling the same dice over and over and continually being annoyed by them just makes me want to put them to the side and get some new ones out.
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
You know.
But if the dice are rolling well, then obviously you'll be like, oh, I found some good ones, and then you'll
Well,
keep on going.
I don't really have it in reverse. I don't feel like I like to vary which dice I'm using. I don't tend to
Okay.
feel like, oh, these are hot, I'm going to keep using these. I'll
Really?
like, yeah, I'll just stick with the dice. It's only if my dice are going badly, I'll be like, right, you're on the naughty step now. You can get in the trash
Have you
for
not
a
ever
while.
rolled like some Rivendell sixes and then gone, fuck it out, I'm going to keep
Well,
rolling this
I
baby?
don't I don't own any Rivendell dice,
That
but it's
is
not.
atrocious. The fact that you've done so well without using Rivendell dice
Yeah.
is saying something because those things are nice.
There's
So
just
there you
certain there are I do have like favorite dice, like the green hegemon ones
go.
I
Okay.
got from the Nations Cup last year. I've got two of them, and those ones are great. They feel crazy. I think just because something about the yellow spots. I love the yellow spots.
Okay.
Lots
Yellow
of double
spots are
sixes
nice.
rolled on those hegemon boys.
Love it.
Yeah,
Are you going to Nations Cup this year? I assume.
yeah.
Nice. Love it.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so moving on to a bit more, I guess, how you approach the game and all that sort of thing. So, would you say there's something about the way you either play the game or think about it potentially that kind of helps you be so successful? Could be a
Mm.
particular strength you have or something that you do really well that's maybe overlooked by other people. Anything like that that comes to mind?
This isn't really something that I do that other people don't, but I do think this is. I've probably got causation and correlation backwards on this one. I don't think it's. I think
Hmm.
it's. This is a result of like this is something that if I see this in someone, I know they're going to be a good player or at least a
Okay.
competent player, which is a a intuitive ability to grasp the mathematics behind the game, which is to say,
Okay.
if you look at a battle line and you look at the setup, you look at like the line, you have a rough, you know what should happen.
Hmm.
You can just intuitively, without thinking about it at all, you don't have to consider it. You just look and you know. You look at a
Yeah.
battle line, you say like, right, that line of Hunter Orcs fighting that line of whatever. You know roughly the odds of what should happen. Doesn't mean it will
Hmm.
happen, but I think that
Yeah.
every good player it's just, it comes down to I mean I don't want to say intelligence because that sounds really wanky but like on some level it's like this innate grasp of the numbers behind the game and the odds of
Yep.
everything. If you have that in your head without having to actually actively think about it and crunch the numbers
Yeah.
with you,
Yeah.
if you can just do it without thinking, you'll probably be a better player than average, I think.
Sure.
Like I've noticed that
And
like almost all the players I think of as good can do that and they do it without thinking, and that's
yeah.
that's the for me that's a pretty clear indicator. Like you know what should happen, and then if it does or doesn't, you can pivot. But like just knowing that your line of Rivendell elves will do this to that line, just sort of without having to stop and think about it, it's like
Mm,
quick processing. And I know that's
sure.
not like actually a thing that you're doing. That's just a thing that makes you good, rather than that being a thing that good players do. If that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Like your ability to do that isn't something you choose to do, it's just something that you have, and if you have it
Mm,
you'll be better. And I realize that's not very helpful because it's not a tip or anything like that, but it's just
mm,
it's something I've noticed that if you have that intuition you will be a better player than
yeah.
people who
But
don't.
it's things like that that I guess just come through a lot of experience, a lot of reps, because
They
obviously when you
can
start
do.
out, you wouldn't probably really know that because you don't have all the experience of knowing, oh, this should do this to this,
Yeah,
but then just
but
through reps and everything.
but like this is what I'm saying, I don't think you should need reps to be able to do that.
Hmm.
You should be able
Interesting.
to just look at the numbers and figure it out. Like that's something that's the difference for me. Like
Okay.
if you have a good mind for numbers, this game comes more easily to you, I think.
Mm.
That's
But
my
yeah, I guess
that'll be true for any war game as well, to be fair.
yeah. There's a point where I guess you have to sort of like learn the numbers
Yes.
initially, but it's that then once you've done that initial sort of bit, some
Yeah.
people will catch on to it
Well,
a lot sort of quicker.
like a strong war gamer playing other systems will be able to come to this one and read the profiles and have that like though that's the sign of a good player
Yeah.
for
And that is
me.
something that we see sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sort of
yeah, we
people
do
jump
see it.
over from
Like
other games and
there's quite a few players I've encountered who've only just made the jump, but you can already tell they're going to be solid. Or
yeah.
players who've just started just because they can do that
Yeah.
without having to do the reps. That's the thing. You don't have to do the
Sure.
reps.
Yeah. No, that does make
And I
sense
know
because yeah,
that's
we
not again,
see
it's
those
not
players
yeah. It's not
Yeah.
tips exactly. It's just an
Mm.
observation. But I think it's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What would you say is one of the biggest lessons you have learned from a game,
Mm.
a specific moment, a tournament? What left you red hot after a moment, and you thought, I'm not going to do that again, something like that.
Oh, sorry, like a mistake, you mean?
Yeah, I guess, was there something that happened that you really, you were like, oh, right, I'll never do that again. I've learned my lesson there. Something like that. Or I guess
Well,
it could be a lesson that you've learned from something that you've done well.
so
But,
back in the early days, it was sort of a kind of a there was a trial by fire when it came to playing certain players who wouldn't let you
mm.
have backseas.
Ha
Like
ha ha.
if
Yes,
you're a new
yes.
player, someone not letting you take back even a small mistake, if you have the ambition to be good, that's the kind of thing that you need to be disciplined about. So, for example, like I have
Mm.
this memory. This is Ed. I'm not trying to flame Ed because he's definitely not the only player who used to.
W
He still
Ed.
does this as well. But like
He
back
does.
in the day, there was plenty of players around who would do
Who?
this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, I just have this one core memory. It was 1,000 points. I was playing some Mordor jank, and I didn't have that much stuff. So I had all my Morannons. I had only had 36 Morannons because you only got 12 in a box back then, all painted
Right.
up. And I didn't have any more, so I needed to bump up to 1,000 points. I was like, well, I'll have a couple of Troll Chieftains. That'll do it.
Nice.
But allied in Gollum with the ring because you could do that from Goblin Town. And um, so it was a couple of Troll Chieftains. I had the Shadow Lord. I had I think it was like just, and then I had a smattering of regular orcs as well. But it was mainly, I
Mm.
think I had Shagrat maybe as well, something like that, or might have been Gothmog. I was pumping up my points by adding in Troll Chieftains because I didn't have enough bodies. Anyway, I was using my Shadow Lord to cast a spell, and I moved him part way, and I forgot to move him back.
The
And then I started
classic.
moving something else, and I was like, ah, shit, I forgot to move my Shadow Lord back. Even though I talked about doing it, Ed wouldn't
Mm.
allow me to do it, which, I mean, personally, I have mixed feelings about that, but it was very informative because obviously he then just
Mm.
immediately blew up my Shadow Lord with his Rivendell Knight captains and Legolas and Wizard. And I think he was using knights. He had two knight captains, Rivendell Knights, Legolas and Gandalf. At 1,000 points,
Well,
so I think he had like 24 models or something, and
right.
he ruined my Shadow Lord, and then spent the rest of the game ruining me in general, which was like a learning
Oh no.
experience. Um,
Yes.
because understanding like not making mistakes.
Because it
People
is
will
a
often let you off.
mistake.
Well, people will
It
often
is
let
a
you off for
right.
doing that, but
Hmm.
also people don't have to do that. And
They do
if you
not.
want to actually be good, you need to not make those mistakes in the first place.
Those are the small mistakes. Obviously, they can be really big mistakes, but those are the small
Yeah,
things that you could just do from just a half a second lapse in sort of concentration. You do it in a really important game,
yeah,
and then your opponent is well within their rights, really, to say,
yeah,
no, you can't
yeah. I mean, like
sort of take that
if
back.
they don't, I think it's admirable for them to, in the interest of fairness, to let you have backsies on things, but like you shouldn't be relying on your opponent to give you anything. Like personally,
Yeah.
I would give my opponent that backseat because I don't believe in winning off the back of gotchas. But at the same time, they have
Hmm.
no obligation to do so. And if you want
Yeah.
to actually be good, you have to be ready for the people who
To
aren't
accept
going to
that
let you have
if it
backseats.
if it does come out. It's a very interesting debate. If
Yeah.
anyone is still watching this deep in, let us know what you think. Would you let your opponent take back small mistakes in a very big
Yeah.
important game or
So for the full
important moment?
context of that, right? We'd both already lost a game, which shouldn't be relevant for how you behave here, but we were both two
Sure.
and one at this point. Or no, maybe I think maybe we hadn't. Maybe it was the third game we'd both won two or something like that.
Right.
Anyway, um, I moved my Shadow Lord and it was starting to move up my orcs, and I'd forgotten to move them back. And it was like I'd
Yep.
moved two or three orcs, but it was like it wasn't like a lot later in the phase of the game. It was
Mm.
within the same move phase, and I'd forgotten
Yep.
to do the remaining move. I'd even measured out how far I'd gone, and I knew how much movement I had to go back, and I'd even measured roughly where I was going to go because it's a Shadow Lord against Rift Knights. I
Yep.
needed to know
Of
where he was
course.
going to be.
Yeah.
So like that's the specific context. So in my opinion, that was a particularly harsh example of not letting someone have it
Mm.
back, especially someone who's doing this. That was my third tournament, I think. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I was still
Newer
fairly
player.
green. Yeah, I was wet
Yeah.
behind the
I
ears.
would
I was green.
also. if I was playing, sort of a newer player on a lower table or something
Mm.
like that, I would totally allow those kinds of things. It's a
Yeah.
it's a learning curve.
One.
I tend to try
Yeah.
and match the energy of the person
Mm.
that I'm playing. I'm all for kind of letting some things sort of go back if it's not like too important. If they would match that sort of thing
Yeah.
when it happens to me, I'll read the room.
Well, I feel, yeah, I agree with matching energy is valuable. I'm personally not. I'm quite soft on anyone. Like I'm not gonna.
Hmm,
I basically only would say absolutely not for someone who I knew would do the exact same thing to me. So, for example,
sure.
certain players who have done that to me in the past, I'd be like, sorry,
Here
mate.
we are. Yep.
But I'm of
And
the
I've
opinion
done that
that
to those people as well.
yeah, I'm of the opinion that
Yep.
like I generally prefer letting people make tactical mistakes rather than operational mistakes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because
Then just a
I'm
1 second. Yeah.
I'm pretty good at keeping my shit in order in my head, and I still do this sort of thing. So anyone can do it, is my feeling, and I don't think
Mm,
that's the reason you shouldn't beat someone because of that reason. But on the other
yeah.
hand, if someone does it a lot, like in the same game, even you're
Mm,
sometimes thinking like, well, hang on, I'm telling this guy not to make mistakes against
yeah. And
me.
he's
And then
yeah.
there's like it's a real gray area. Like there's
Where do you
no
draw the
actual
line?
hard answer. It's all vibes. You have
Yeah.
to just decide
Yep.
what the correct thing
100%.
to do is. All I would say is try and be consistent as you can. Like I would say, like as the game goes on, and the more your tolerance of it can go down as the game goes on if it keeps happening. But if it's like a
If yeah,
one-off
yeah,
thing, I think you should let people have backsies. But
yeah.
I do respect when people don't. I understand
People
that. Like
don't.
I had this whole discussion with on the way back or up to Sterling. I can't remember which way around it was. Me and
Mm,
Sam had a
yep.
heated debates back and forth about the ethics of this. Not it wasn't actually we weren't like mad or anything,
No,
but we
no,
had
no. But
very opposing opinions, and
I've had
we
many of these,
we went around in
yeah,
circles a lot.
discussions as well with Sam.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I agree with the philosophy. If you want to be a hard line about it and never let anyone have it, then never let anyone have it, and
Yeah,
that's valid.
that's
And I
fine.
don't think that's
Yep.
wrong. I just think it's like maybe in unnecessarily antagonistic sometimes.
Mm, yeah, I see
Anyway,
both sides. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Um, so at this point, obviously, you've been playing for so long.
Yeah,
Do you still have sort of any goals driving you to compete? I
that's a
think
very silly question.
I might be setting you up there.
Well, as someone who's earlier mentioned that I've not won the league, and I've been trying to win the league now for this has been my third year in a row of actively trying, and I've not won. Podium in the league is nice, but it's not my goal. It hasn't been my goal.
Mm,
So yeah, I want the actual league win to go with all of these seconds,
he wants
thirds,
the
and
dub.
fourths. I want the dub. I would like multiple wins, but that is not going to matter to me as much as getting that first win.
The first one will be the
Yeah,
sweetest. You get over
I'm
the
the only
hump.
person, I'm the only person to podium in the league more than twice who hasn't won it. So let's fix that.
Interesting stat right there. Well, you are currently first.
Well, there aren't that
In
many. Well, I mean, I spent most of 2023 in first as well. That doesn't necessarily mean anything. I would say that
true.
I like there aren't that many people who podiumed the league. There's a lot of people who've got one
Yeah.
third place and nothing. There are very few people who've actually podiumed more than once. In fact, there's only
Mm,
five, I think,
five.
including
Okay.
myself.
Sure. Okay.
Not even that. I think it's four.
Four.
No, no, there is five. There is five.
Five. Okay.
No, six. Six. I forgot about world champion.
A select
How could
few
I? Yeah,
is the
exactly.
yes. How indeed. Yeah. So winning the league, I guess. What happens
Yeah.
post winning the league?
Um, I want to play SPG all over the world. That's my goal, but I need to win the
Okay.
league first. I want to go
That
to the
needs to
US.
happen.
I want to play I want us to play the LA Open.
Hmm.
Sorry, Las Vegas Open. Not.
Yeah.
I want to play Adepticon, maybe one or the other, probably not both. I want to play a
Hmm.
tournament in Australia. I
Clash.
want to
Isn't
play.
that their biggest one? I think it's about to happen, isn't it?
They, yeah, they've got a bunch of big
I
ones,
think
but I'd
so.
love to go over for one of those if I could. If I could time it right with the holiday, because they come
Hmm.
to Articon. I feel like something Kylie said to me was,
Reciprocate the.
"We come, yeah, exactly. We come down for Articon. Why don't you come here?" And I was like, "Yeah, you know what? It's a valid point."
Yeah.
Um,
Fair.
but I can't really afford to do that and all of my
And trying
GBHL
to win the
events.
league. So you win the
Yeah,
league, and then maybe you can focus on
yeah.
other
I mean, that was
things.
my goal. I was originally going to do that last year, but I
You were
didn't win in
booking your Aussie
2023.
trip
So
this year. Yeah,
no, no.
sure.
I was talking about winning in 23, and then I
Oh right,
do the
sure.
traveling around last year. But it's going to
Okay.
happen the year after I win. I'm going to try and book in some foreign tournaments. Going to go to France,
Nice,
Belgium,
nice.
Germany, Poland
Lots
again. I
going
mean,
on
I've
in
done
Europe,
Poland,
so
but I'd
yeah.
love to do that. Do a little grand tour after a league
tour
win
of
would be amazing. It'd be
any
like a
heroics on
reward
tour.
almost.
Yeah.
Well, if
Sure.
I can convince some of the others to come with me, I mean,
There you go.
you know,
On-site podcasts.
I think
Heroic stats.
if I was going to Australia, I think my girlfriend would actually break up with me if she didn't get to come. So that's
Sure.
probably not going to be in any
That
heroics
is
trip.
I've also said to my girlfriend that if we one day go
yeah,
to New Zealand and or
yeah,
Australia,
yeah.
that she will go with
That's
me,
kind of the
but I
thing.
will be going to a tournament.
Yeah,
100%.
that's kind of how I do it. I'd be like, let's try and do it like 2 weeks in down under Australia and New
Yeah.
Zealand, and maybe. I mean, if it was me doing that, I would definitely plan it around a tournament in the middle somewhere
Yeah.
because
Oh yeah.
what's the fucking point in going to Australia if
Exactly.
you can't beat them at their own game or our game, I
100%.
guess. But
You heard it here first, Aussies.
fighting, it's all the
There you
fighting
go.
words. It's very one way.
Yes.
I want to go over there and beat them there as well as here.
Show it. There you go.
That'd be fun.
Sure. What would you say then? You kind of touched on this a little bit before, but what would your best piece of advice be for up and coming players aspiring to be the next Dave Farmer? What do you think? What's the number one piece of advice?
So,
in your view,
I think some people say that like. So there's a couple of schools of thought on this. Like people often say you should pick an army that you like and stick with it, which is true.
yes, true.
Because it gives you an angle and it gives you like
An
basically if
identity.
you want to go from not good to good, the best way is to be consistent with the army that you use and also to use an army that can perform. Like you have to use something that can
Isn't
deliver the
terrible.
results. Well, the way I see it is the best way to learn is to play against top players, right? You see what they do and you can learn from it. The best way to
Yep.
get to play against top players when you yourself are not yet a top player is to play something powerful. Like I used to say that about the
True.
Dragon Emperor in the old edition. It's like people will rag on you for calling it a crutch and stuff, but at the same time, it's like yes, but if you take something strong, you get to more consistently play against strong players, and then you can actually learn. If you play something weak, you might end up losing against players who you could otherwise beat, but you just lose to them, and then you're stuck.
And you don't play
You
the
don't
higher
learn.
sort
You
of
don't play the
competition.
top players to learn.
Yep.
That's kind of my philosophy. But at the same time, being consistent with one army helps a lot.
Yeah.
Don't army hop because army hopping like a maniac.
Chasing the meta, is that?
I'm calling out John Partridge right now, by the way. If he even watches this, I don't know if he will.
Shout out, John.
As soon as he stopped jumping meta, he got his second podium. His first podium was right when he first started, and he got it with an army he really liked. He then spent 2 years jumping around on the meta, didn't get a sniff, although he did win best painted twice in a row, which is pretty cool. And then this year, when there wasn't a meta to jump on, he just immediately
used
podiumed again. Used the army he liked in a Horsa Thranduil and actually found something good, rather than trying
to
figure out what people already said it was good.
Are actually really cracked at the moment, though. But yeah.
I don't know if I'd go anywhere near as really cracked, but they're certainly solid.
Okay, they're pretty good.
They're fine. I wouldn't say really cracked.
I've been to a tournament this year, so they're not Army of the White Hand. Put it better. They did just win the Masters.
They did just win the Masters. That was pretty fun to see. I liked. It was pretty interesting. Like having played against this is a tangent, but you guys mentioning Miles's extra Palace Guard as a mistake, but actually having played against it, I think it was a really smart choice. Reasoning being, full D6 except for his bowman was really, really valuable against me. Like if he had regular glaives instead of Palace Guard, I 100% would have beaten him. And because he didn't have that,
squish you.
It was the D6 massively helped him against me. And we did actually draw, but unfortunately he'd killed more than me because his Legolas managed to roll a 6 in every fight.
This is a man who watches the podcast right here, folks.
Shout out. Well, I mean, for that one, I definitely did because I wanted to see all the lists.
You wanted to listen to your list. We featured many of your lists over the years now we've been doing the podcast. So,
it's been years, isn't it? Crazy.
It has been. Yep. So find a list that you're comfortable with, but then sort of, I guess, once you've maybe done that, or anything else that kind of comes to mind to try and elevate your game.
Well, I would say that the one big thing that holds people back from winning is tilting. So if things go badly, if you get frustrated and you sort of mentally give up and check out, you're very much less likely to get a good result out of the game. Like dice can go very one way, and it doesn't necessarily. You can be completely screwed, but if you give up, you will just lose. If you don't give up and you try and always maximize your game, it's a good discipline as well because it's remembering like you can't win every tournament. The dice will tell you sometimes that you just can't win. The best possible way to get a good result and get a podium, like a third or a second, after losing a game because of horrible dice or whatever, is every time, every game, you have to maximize your result. So in the game that you're losing, you keep that VP diff as low as possible. In a game that you're you're winning, you should try and max out your VP diff in a way that doesn't take huge risks.
Yeah.
Risks are bad. I actually think this is an interesting thing because someone like me who plays so much and almost exclusively at competitive tournaments, I'm very, very risk averse because I have an annoying. I can remember all the times when I took what is extremely small risk and it actually blew up in my
That
face.
went badly.
Yeah, like my getting second at. I actually still won the game too, but against Michael Bradford, in Scotland last year, I took a what felt like a very small risk with my Musgear. We were playing AOL mirror match at Breakthrough. I put him into a charging Warg Rider with like 7 dice and a banner reroll and a point of might. And obviously I got like a 4
you
high.
Got the 4 on Musgear.
Yeah, I didn't get the 5 on Musgear. I think I might even rolled like a 2 high on Musgear, but like overall I didn't get the 6. Michael did get the 6, and then he just one-shot Musgear, which immediately threw me out of there. And that tournament had like a VP diff scoring system as well, so those extra points for killing Musgear ended up being literally crucial in.
Those are the worst fucking moments in SBG when you just do something like, there's no way this goes wrong. I would have won
the tournament if he didn't die there. Yeah. And I didn't have to put him in either, but initially I was thinking I was going to heroic combat off of this Warg Rider to try, because I had I had a spider in there. I had my own Warg Rider in. No, I didn't have my own Warg Rider in there because he knocked me for it. I had a Wild Warg in there, and I had like Musgear, 2 guys and a spear or something like that. I had loads of dice, and I just didn't get the 6. Classic. So yeah, I've like, after playing this game for so long, sometimes you play against someone who will like take a big risk and then it will pay off, and that's really satisfying. But I have like this. Well, I mean, he does do that, to be fair, but I'm very much more of the mindset of like, do the thing that will pay off more than not. Like, you're aiming to, if you're aiming to improve and you're aiming to beat think of it as like gambling a casino. You have to try and take the smallest risk possible that is still a winning play.
Sure.
Consistently, and only take big risks if there is no other way to win. You know what I mean? That's how I see it anyway.
I think that's good advice. That's a nice encompassing but there would be the other side of the fence, someone like Ash sort of going for those more out there sort of plays.
Like I would play for a 65% sort of success consistently, like over the course of an entire sort of career, as it were, whereas he plays for higher risk, but like potential higher reward types of plays. It's just a different philosophy. But then that probably goes back to like, what's driving you? Are you trying to win, or are you trying to have like a goofy, crazy, fun, crazy game while also trying to win? So because you'll end up crashing and burning more if you do that. But like, that's fine. Like, it doesn't.
Depending on why you're playing, why you're going to tournaments and things like that, you know, tailor your approach.
Exactly. Your motivation will be different to mine, probably.
Yeah. Unless you're a new player trying to win the league.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm aiming to have the best possible result over a full season. Most people are thinking sort of smaller than that.
Yeah.
Which is completely valid as well. Like, most people aren't psychotic, so
there you go. So one final question before we move on to the rapid fire segment. Very exciting. We haven't spoken at all about the hobby side of MESBG. Would you call yourself a hobbyist? Do you get much time to hobby? All that sort of thing? How would you sum up yourself in that regard?
Comes and goes in bursts. I have like a couple of armies that I'm genuinely really proud of and I think look great. And then if the army on the whole isn't at the top level of my ability to paint it, like if there's parts of it that aren't good that I'm not super happy with, I tend to sort of completely lose interest. So for example, my Minas Tirith, I'm really happy with it, and I feel like anything that wasn't up to the standard, if I put it on the tabletop, I'd feel really guilty about playing with that. Like, it would like drag the whole thing down. So I feel motivated to finish Minas Tirith or anything that I play with the Minas Tirith. But my Mordor, for example, half of it's better. There's tons of different schemes in there, things that are old, things that are new, things that are half finished and I've never finished because I just have no motivation, because it doesn't have a cohesion. Like, there's a reason why my Witch King was undercoated and washed for, even though I used him all the time, I never had any motivation to finish him. I only have motivation to finish things to complete a cohesive, beautiful whole.
A set.
So my City of Kings army, I'm hoping is going to look really, really cooked, really good. But if I was using a different army, I wouldn't give a shit. So that's kind of my
Sure.
philosophy on the hobby is I
Okay.
want the whole army to look good. And as soon as it isn't going to look good for whatever reason, like if I know I can't get something finished, I will stop trying
Sure.
just
Yeah.
immediately.
If there's a mishmash of
Yeah,
different things. Mm. Okay.
exactly.
Yeah. See it. Nice. So did you get much
I'm
time
very
to sort of hobby and things,
I
or
have
not?
quite a bit of
Not so
time to
much.
do it, but actually putting the foot down and doing it is harder.
Mm.
Like at the minute, I'm like it's 3 weeks ish as we're recording this, slightly
Yeah.
under three
I'm
weeks
currently
to City of
painting as well.
Kings.
City of
Yeah,
Kings. Yeah.
like I'm like trying to keep up a pace, so on average, I'm completing a model a day or so, like that. But
Okay.
like I don't tend to
Nice.
paint that way. What I'll do is I'll do like a batch of undercoats and washes, and then I'll leave it, or I'll work on some bases, or I'll jump from thing to thing to keep myself interested.
Yeah.
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 But yeah,
Nice.
I consider myself a capable hobbyist, but I'm not very quick, and that hurts me. Also, like
Same. Mm.
physically, I find myself in the most awful, like hunched over
I
positions without
hunch.
thinking
Oh,
about
I
it.
have terrible posture.
And then I'll
Yeah.
be like, I'll like break out of this reverie. I'll be like having a movie on while painting, just something I've seen before, just to have noise. And then after the
Yeah.
2 hours,
Yeah.
I'll be like, oh, and I'll be like, ooh, and
Yeah,
then I'll
it
break out the massage
hurts.
gun
Yeah.
and
See, I think I sort of because I hunch forward to where my lamp is, and my lamp
yeah,
is quite small. But I watched this painting podcast online,
yeah,
and they all use these lights that go over the
the
top of you,
magnifying light.
so that you can actually sit upright with elbows on the table, and you're not having to take the model to the
Yeah,
light.
yeah,
And I think that's endorsed quite a lot by actual painters.
Yeah,
Uh,
anyone who paints any more than I do would probably end up with a very bad back doing what I do. But because I don't
yes,
paint that much, it
you
manifests
just sort
that
of
in
live with
it.
it.
Fine.
Yeah.
I borrow a lot of models too. If I don't have an army painted, I'm more likely to borrow it than I am
Yes.
to to
Yeah.
paint it.
There is a borrowing sort of scheme amongst the
The
players in the
squad,
GBHL, isn't there?
people who
Yeah.
travel around. Yeah,
That's it.
I think
Love it.
that's nice. I like that.
Yeah. That's cool. Okay, so we're going to close things out here with a quick rapid fire segment. So I'm just going to fire out some short MESBG related questions. Nothing too serious. So just whatever comes to mind, really. Just throw it out there. Sound good?
Okay, sure.
Okay. So kicking things off. 1 or 2 day events.
2 day.
Should you mount or not mount your heroes?
Depends on the hero, but mount
Yes.
generally.
Generally speaking, mount. Okay.
Yeah.
Gandalf or Saruman?
Saruman.
Biggest tournament essential?
Ooh, Trey.
Trey. Love it.
Trey Bien.
Best model in the game?
Iralas.
Iralas. Love it. Favorite model in the game?
Iralas. I was kind of answering that the other way. So that's my favorite model. Best model in the game.
Oh, right. Okay, sure. I thought your best and favorite model was Iralas there. I was like, yeah.
I mean, I think it's one of my best models, but it's my favorite model. I don't think it's the
your
best.
favorite. Nice.
Yeah, best model is probably like I think a mounted Glorfindel.
Mounted Glorfindel. Shout out the Aussies. Never thought they'd see the day. There you go. Symbol dice or no symbol dice?
Sometimes I'm feeling fruity. I'll have no symbol, but usually symbol dice.
Okay. If there is a symbol, where's that bad boy going?
On the 6, of course.
On the 6.
I have some nice old Witch King dice that have symbols on the ones, and I never use them.
That is terrible.
I use the tin for all my widget, like my little token widget stuff. The tin from those dice, but I never use the dice because they have pictures on the ones.
Yeah, that is odd.
Yeah, I can't do anything with a thing like that.
Can't be doing that. No.
Yep.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Tea. High points or low points?
High points.
Good or evil?
I'm an evil guy. Evil.
There you go. Love that. Favorite prize you've received from a tournament?
I've got a couple of trophies I really like, but I'm gonna focus in on. I won this like big. Hang on, let me just quickly plug it because I've got it here.
Oh, he's got it. Sheesh.
It's from War Chest tabletopupgrades.co.uk. This thing with all the different. I can't see it.
Oh, we can't see. Oh no.
Oh, it's a widget set which has all the different lengths of widget from
Is it the
2
black
inches up
one?
to 12. Yeah, the black one that comes in
The
a
black
tray.
one. I want that as tournament as well.
Did you?
Let's go.
I get so much use out of it. Honestly, I would never have
Yeah.
paid for it because they're quite expensive.
No, neither. Yeah.
But like, oh, what a great win.
Nice. That is, useful things to help with the game.
I quite like. I'm fairly fond of my GW trophy as well. I got second at the GT a few weeks ago, and that thing is pretty cool.
Nice. What would you be ordering at a bar?
A pint.
A pint of?
Yeah. Well, I mean, beer.
Beer.
I'm a fan of ale personally, not lager. Lager's okay, ale. But it wouldn't be my first. A Beavertown neck oil would be my first choice if it's on tap.
Neck oil on tap, folks. Okay.
Yep.
In an army list, would you prefer multiple cheaper heroes or fewer expensive heroes?
It depends what the bonuses are like, but I tend to prefer cheaper.
Okay.
Or historically speaking, I have preferred cheap, but I think now bigger is better because they tend to have more tools.
Bigger's better.
And tools are lacking right now.
For sure.
Big up the Saruman.
Okay. Yeah. Frodo or Sam?
Frodo.
Merry or Pippin?
Merry.
I wasn't expecting the Frodo pick there. Sorry, I just hate Frodo so much.
No one picks Frodo. I'm a Frodo stan.
Love it. Favorite evening entertainment at an event?
Karaoke.
I knew you were going to say that. And finally, the age-old question: dwarves or elves?
Elves.
Yeah. Elf stan as well. That's the Stephen Denby rubbing off on him right there.
I
folks.
basically don't own any dwarves. I spend a lot of time playing against. I do have some, but like I have almost zero painted dwarves. I used to play against Ali a lot, and he would always play dwarves, and so I sort of felt like I wasn't allowed to enjoy them.
And you grew a hatred for dwarves.
Which is funny because Ali got his hatred for elves from the same thing from playing Luke Hilda a long time ago when they were kids. And so Luke Hilda's wood elves make Ali hate elves, so he liked dwarves. And now he's done the same thing to me. So
dwarves, sure.
The
swings around.
The lineage of our preferences can be drawn all the way back to the Hilda
back. For sure. Yes. Shout out Luke Hilda. Well, that's it. Rapid fire segment. And that is going to close it out, I think. So thank you very much, Dave Farmer, for joining me. Episode 1 of Talk of the Table. If you made it this far, let us know. What did you think of the series? Any sorts of changes to the questions, anything like that? Keen to get some feedback, but I'm hoping to get some of the the big hitters on to kind of discuss the same sorts of things that we just did, how they got into SBG, all that sort of thing. So I hope you guys enjoyed. But I think that's going to close us out. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us for Talk of the Table from the Gollum's Gamers.